Hi, everybody, and welcome to our second episode of Nero's X Collection, which is our project looking at everyone who was destined or doomed to love Rome's notorious fifth emperor. Our last episode focused on Nero's childhood up until about 14. In particular, it focused on his first and truest love of his life, which was his mom, Agrippina. Agrippina, at this point, has managed to get Nero officially adopted by the Emperor Claudius. So Nero has a really good chance of inheriting the throne when Claudius is gone. His only real competition is Claudius's natural-born son, Britannicus, who's about 4 or 5 years younger. And Agrippina herself is now the Empress of Rome. So, Agrippina now kicked her imperial campaign for her son into high gear. In one of the earliest documented instances of helicopter parenting, she replaced all of Nero's guards and tutors with men who were personally loyal to her, rather than the emperor, and obsessively monitored Nero's personal and academic development. Perhaps most famously, she hired Seneca, the prominent Stoic, to serve as Nero's private tutor, though she discouraged him from teaching the boy about Stoic philosophy due to its associations with the famous anti-Caesarian Cato the Younger. Whatever her faults, she clearly chose the right teacher and the right curriculum for her son. Historian Cassius Dio reported that Seneca took delight in adolescent boys, a practice he also taught Nero to follow. Seneca denied charges that he was intimate with his young pupil. Whatever the truth, the two had a close bond. Nero officially came of age in 51 BC when he turned 14, the Roman age of male majority. At the Liberalia, a festival held to celebrate the debut of new young men, Nero appeared in the purple toga of an emperor. His mother had picked it out for him. Britannicus, still several years younger, wore only a plain toga praetexta, or boy's toga. The contrast was jarring and provides a glaring example of just how easy it probably was for Agrippina to politically outmaneuver her smitten emperor husband. As a teen, Nero became deeply interested in sports, principally chariot racing, which was regarded as a lower class and deeply undignified pastime, and art. He wrote poetry, which, though it does not survive, was regarded by several contemporaries as competent, even occasionally eloquent. When he was 16, a young age for a Roman boy to marry, Agrippina arranged to have Nero married to his 14-year-old stepsister, Claudia Octavia, Claudius's daughter from his first marriage to Messalina. X number 2, Claudia Octavia. Though young, Octavia was already highly popular with the Roman people, and her personality was reputed to be close to the Roman ideal of womanhood: quiet, dignified, modest, and nurturing. So naturally, from the very beginning, Nero couldn't stand her. He made no secret of his disdain in public or in private. Shortly before the two wed, Octavia was adopted into another patrician family since, as Claudius's daughter, the marriage between Nero and her would otherwise be incest. Later in his marriage, after Nero had taken the throne, his friends openly lamented his habitual mistreatment of Octavia. Nero responded that just being the princeps wife surely ought to be enough to make her happy. Meanwhile, Agrippina's long-term friendship with Claudius's influential advisor Pallas was becoming an ever greater distraction to the Roman people and to Claudius himself. After a few cups of wine, Claudius lamented one night, "It is my destiny to endure my wife's misdeeds and then to punish them." Further, Agrippina pushed for greater formal recognition as empress than any woman previously had. During public appearances, she demanded a dais identical to the emperor's own, and sometimes traveled alone in the emperor's ceremonial carriage, the carpentum. Public opinion began to increasingly reflect the perception that Agrippina had perhaps oversold her hand. She was without a doubt a smooth operator, but her tenuous role as puppet master was no longer a court secret. It was common knowledge. Agrippina knew that to preserve the power she'd amassed, she'd have to do something. Claudius, in his early 60s, was already in poor health. One night in 54 AD, after a dinner of his favorite food, mushrooms, he fell desperately ill. He lost control of his bodily functions. His court doctor made him a bowl of porridge, intended to settle his stomach, but it was no use. By the next morning, the emperor was dead. In the following days, Agrippina denied that Claudius had died at all, in an attempt to buy time and consolidate her son's hold on power. All the same, rumors immediately began to swirl that the emperor had been poisoned. Agrippina was said to have poisoned the mushrooms. Some even believed that the porridge Claudius had been given after his initial symptoms had contained a second dose intended to finish the job. It was not initially clear who would succeed Claudius. Claudius's own actions had seemed to indicate a preference for Nero, as did popular opinion. But Britannicus was, after all, Claudius's natural-born son. Agrippina had Britannicus sequestered in his room, along with his sister Antonia and sister Octavia, Nero's wife. Agrippina successfully negotiated with Burrus, commander of the Praetorian Guard, to have the guards swear fealty to her son instead of Britannicus. With the Praetorian's oath, Nero was already emperor in all but name, but nonetheless he proceeded to speak before the Senate, whose last vestigial power was the ability to grant the title of princeps, and gave an oration, co-written by Seneca, memorializing Claudius and proclaiming himself emperor, nearly daring the assembled senators to oppose him. No one did. Agrippina had successfully maneuvered her son to the highest position in the Roman Empire. At the age of only 16, Nero was perhaps the most powerful person on earth. Curiously, for the first time, the emperor's mother was now also given lictors, ceremonial guards symbolizing the emperor's authority. Coins featuring the new emperor's portrait included the likeness of his mother, side by side with her all-powerful son. Meanwhile, Nero's wife Octavia languished as her husband, the new emperor, grew to enjoy the taste of power. He would venture out at night, disguised, in search of sex and violence, and often found both in ample quantity. When not drunk and running riot, Nero passed the time writing poetry, playing music, or practicing his charioteering. Nero was now the emperor of Rome and a married man, albeit not a happily married man. But he wasn't done looking for love, not by a long shot. In our next episode, Nero will encounter a woman with whom he genuinely falls deeply in love. Not his wife, of course. And his mother, Agrippina, can't stand her. We hope to catch you then. Thanks for watching.
Hi, Gaius here. Thanks for being part of our efforts to shed light on the more obscure topics related to the fascinating world of the ancient Romans. If you enjoyed Titus's work here, please do us a favor by liking and subscribing. Gratias vobis ago.